Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Good morning, devotees, Prabhus, and anybody in between. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, chapter number 30, verse number 45. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tatu Jayam Virayet Nasta Prayesha Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utamas Loke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistaki. And the verse goes, Tatogni Maruto Rajan Amunchan Mukato Rusha Mahim Nirvid Rudam Kartum Samvartaka Ivatyaye. Synonyms: Tata, thereafter, Agni, fire, Maruto, and air, Rajan, O king, Amunchan, they emitted, Mukata, from their mouths, Rusha, out of anger, Mahim, the earth, Nirvirudam, treeless, Kartum, to make, Samvartaka, the fire of devastation, Iva, like, Atyaye, at the time of devastation. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. My dear king, at the time of devastation, Lord Shiva emits fire and air from his mouth out of anger. To make the surface of the earth completely treeless, the Pracetas also emitted fire and air from their mouths. Purport. In this verse, Vidura is addressed as Rajan, which means O King. In this regard, Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur comments that Adira never becomes angry because he is always situated in devotional service. Advanced devotees can control their senses. Therefore, a devotee can be addressed as Rajan. A king controls and rules in various ways among citizens. Similarly, one who can control his senses is the king of his senses. He's a Swami or Goswami. The Swamis and Goswamis are therefore sometimes addressed as Maharaj or king. Verse again. My dear king, at the time of devastation, Lord Shiva emits fire and air from his mouth out of anger. To make the surface of the earth completely treeless, the Pracetas also emitted fire and air from their mouths. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Nangayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurundina Taranam Paramananda Maravam Shri Chaitanyam Ishwaram. Short verse, short report, Srila Prabhupada. In the translation, we see that at the time of devastation, this is my dear king, even though Vidura could not be a king, at least by playing by the rules, because he wasn't completely from a royal class. He was only half. The story goes that Vidura was born when one of the sisters, Ambalika was out. So Ambika and Ambalika were supposed to, Bhishma brought him in to marry his sisters, his brothers, and but no one was actually able to. Vichitravira died of consumption, tuberculosis, and basically she called Vyasadeva, Satyavati, her son, and Vyasadeva had no interest really in progeny. That was other people's business. He was dividing Vyasa, Samasa, to separate, to put together. So he separated the Vedas. But he agreed, but it was complicated. So one of his sisters couldn't take the intensity of Vyasadeva and left a servant. So Vyasadeva, being pleased with her service, gave her a son, and this son was saintliest and most intelligent, but he was Vidura, but he wasn't really fully royal, and they took pedigree very seriously in those times. Nowadays, anybody who has any kind of sensual, sexual attraction, they just get together like dogs sniffing each other. And there is no process to purify the progeny either. So we get impossible children that become delinquents or not very intelligent and not very spiritually inclined. I mean, just basically the 99% of the population of Earth. So it is difficult, even among devotees. I would say, I don't know, I have no idea. I'm not Big Brother, but I would say how many of the devotees have children do prepare themselves for that. They purify their minds, they practice austerities, they chant 50 rounds, etc., etc. I'm not sure. Maybe some. No, I can't give numbers. So this is a science. It's a science. Just like dogs. Dogs are actually bred poorly or overbred, or and they're bred with a particular purpose. They come out with certain characteristics, beauty and behavior. But if they're bred improperly, they don't have the behavior. They have the looks, they don't have the behavior. So in the same way, humans, when they're bred incorrectly, they actually show that by their behavior that they're not qualified. That's why 400,000 species of humans and others that they're not necessarily human. So to get a human body is actually a very difficult endeavor. It takes many births, many births. We can see, especially living here in rural Pennsylvania, that there are many entities of all sorts, birds and beasts, insects, and so not so many humans. And among the humans, not so many fully developed. You can see that people are not properly educated or behaved. Their habits are abominable. The diets are abominable. It's a terrible place to live, the material world, because it's like there is no intelligent life here, beat me up, Scotty kind of thing situation. So at the time here, at the time of devastation, Lord Shiva emits fire and air from his mouth. Why air? Obviously, because otherwise the fire will extinguish itself. Just like there is a welding equipment, there is also air coming through the welding. The fire, when the air is blocked, then the fire dies down. So he has to emit air from his mouth to make the fire actually burn out of anger. Although this is quite, I mean, how does Lord Shiva become angry? Cupid, Kamadev himself, tried to trick Lord Shiva into becoming lusty and didn't succeed. And Lord Shiva didn't become angry with him, even though he was trying to trip him up and make him fall. So how is that Lord Shiva all of a sudden becomes angry? It's for service. Just like, for example, if someone insults a devotee, the devotee may argue, but it's not supposed to get angry. But if someone insults some other devotee, the picture changes. The devotee is supposed to defend the other Vaishnava who is being unjustly attacked or insulted or vilified. So due to his service, Lord Shiva is supposed to get angry. And when Lord Shiva gets angry, well, there is no tell what's going to be left standing. Very little, if anything. It's at the time of devastation, actually. Lord Shiva is an empowered incarnation that has the task of destroying creation and recreate it. That goes Mahatattva for a good wash, rinse, and spin, and then comes back again. So Lord Shiva is in charge. And it's a difficult task. Lord Rama is in charge of creation. Lord Shiva is in charge of destruction. And what's the most difficult thing? Maintenance. A mechanic knows that. A housewife knows that. Maintenance is always the most difficult thing. So Lord Vishnu has to do that part. Just like like a temple vehicle. Temple vehicle means it doesn't belong to anybody, so nobody takes care of it. So the material world, if it was just for the use of the living entities, it will come to ruin very quickly. Lord Vishnu has to maintain it, has to protect people and send rain and make sure that things grow nicely, and the sun is at the same distance from the earth so people don't fry or freeze. So maintenance is difficult, and Lord Vishnu does it himself. To make the surface of the earth completely treeless, the Pracetas also emitted fire and air from their mouths. So the result of austerities is some power. So the Pracetas, it's not like they had some genetic defect that they didn't like trees, or there's just, my grandfather didn't like trees, my father didn't like trees, I don't like trees. It's that the trees were taking over. It was basically covering too much surface, and trees cause some trouble. They're nice, they provide oxygen and beauty and supplies for heating and for construction of homes and fences and barns and so on. But when there are too many, you can't. Thank you. When there are too many, there's a problem. You can't walk anywhere. You can't see anything. They overtake good arable land, so agriculture cannot develop properly, and they fall over houses. Like here in Gitanagar, we saw some large trees falling. There was a storm a few days ago when the temperature reached 0 degrees with a wind chill factor of -25. And there was a wind of 35 miles an hour accompanying that storm. So some trees, kind of large trees, fell. And some fell near where we stay, and some fell near the cabin where the Madhuryas stay. The Mamrita Swami has a cabin there. So it actually fell over the power line. So trees are actually can produce some danger, and there were too many. So the Pracetas basically went wholesale with this one, and they started burning every single tree. They were very powerful. They just came out of the water, practicing austerities in a foreign environment. Usually, when one practice austerities, they do it in a place where they can actually breathe air, if they are land creatures like humans are. But they decided to go underwater and increase their austerities, which gave them extra powers. So they had this yogic fire, and they could burn anything. So they, out of their mouths, they just started burning everything. Of course, Lord Brahma had to intervene, give a daughter in marriage, all that stuff that is coming up. You will hear about it. So we were talking about Vidura, addressed as king. And a devotee can be, Prabhupada said, addressed as Rajan or king, because the king controls and rules the citizens in different ways. One who can control his senses is the king of the senses. So that's the word Swami or Goswami. And the Swamis and Goswamis are therefore addressed sometimes as Maharaj or king. It's kind of funny because in India, if you say Maharaj, you may be referring to a cook, which are also called Maharaj. King of a kitchen, I guess. I'm not sure how that works. But the Swamis or Goswamis means are the real heroes. This Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that one should not try to become a hero, and real heroes are those who can control their senses. But he meant it in a different way. Try to become a hero, try to become number one and front and center and the savior of humanity and so on. That desire should be eradicated. Like even if a person is good and merciful and kind and compassionate to others, should not cultivate that desire like I'm going to save everybody. One should be always a humble servant and know that who is doing the work? We are actually just trying desperately or not so hard to become an instrument in Krishna's hands. So we don't have the power to be really anything except a servant, because that's what we are eternally. It's like, if I become a servant now, if I learn how to become a servant, then I can become a master. That's not the plan. The program is to be a good servant. And there is no happiness derived from lording over. There's none. It's just some illusory, temporary, flickering happiness, which will be taken away when the power diminishes or vanishes. And we are able to experience that. Sometimes we are put in charge of some department and we have to educate or give service to others, or pretend to be important, and that gives some type of rush. I have power over others, like someone abusing a spouse and thinking I have power over you. You're mine, or parents over the children, or teachers over the students. This rush of so-called enjoyment is very short-lived, because that's not natural. It is only natural for us to become servants, because that's what we are eternally. Not just things are not going to change. And if one keeps that domineering mentality, one will find so many walls, so difficult that they are very difficult to navigate. So the best thing one can do, one's spiritual life, is to learn how to control the senses and take this dictation from the spiritual master or Chaitya Guru, Paramatma, from scriptures, from other Vaishnavas. And if one is sufficiently advanced and intelligent, one can actually hear, more than see, hear Krishna giving instruction from every single angle. So even a drunkard can become your Shiksha Guru at a certain point. Anything, any sign can come from Krishna to try to break through our thick layer of false ego. Oh no, I will only take advice from a spiritual master. All the rest are not equipped to instruct me, because I am superior to everybody except for my guru, because the scriptures say that, or because sign a contract somewhere. No, anyone could be giving us instruction coming directly from a super soul. We just have to identify it. Just like there are signs when birds fly, they indicate something, the formations, and there's all sorts of omens, good and bad, that they are presented in nature. We don't have the intelligence or the learning to see them, but they're indications of things to come. So instructions can come from any direction, from any person, and we just have to see them as such. And that way we'll make progress instead of feeding our false ego. Okay. So I will actually ask for comments, and I end up early, not only purposely, but because I have very little more to say. So I'll ask for comments and questions at this point.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much for the class. With regards to the question you posed about how can Lord Shiva become angry, because the cause of anger is usually preceded by lust. And Shiva is known as a great Dhira because his wife, Sati, in the next lifetime, as Parvati, even though under being agitated by her still, he didn't actually succumb to that agitation. So with Prabhupada, he, in the, I think it's the 5th chapter of this canto. Yeah, it's the first text. He writes here that when Lord Shiva heard that his chaste wife Sati was dead, he naturally became exceedingly angry. So that cause, natural, it doesn't, Prabhupada isn't indicating here that Shiva is under the sway of lust towards his wife. And also he writes that Sati as well was very powerful. She could have easily killed her father, but she just chose to give up her body just to follow that etiquette that, you know, a daughter can't really kill her father. And Daksha didn't check her. And as a result, that combination actually made Lord Shiva very angry. So is it, my question, is it that just like how a devotee becomes angry when another devotee is insulted, in other words, out of compassion and to protect the servant of the Lord, was that the cause of Lord Shiva's anger?
Well, I can't say with absolute certainty, but seems like Lord Shiva is above the modes of nature, and he can choose the occasion to become angry. And well, like for example, Lord Krishna, he became apparently angry with Bhishma, who wanted to try to kill Arjuna, just to awaken that feeling of chivalry in Krishna. To kill him would have been ecstatic for him, just to see Krishna rushing with a wheel of a cart to kill him in apparent anger. But Krishna wasn't angry. He was just showing that quality of anger, but without actually being controlled by it. So I think Lord Shiva he can put it on and off at will. I don't think has to follow a particular process that he has to become lusty like the rest of the mortals in order to become angry. You can't, there's no pure anger and there is no just anger. So I think anger can be, should be utilized, like Krishna tried to rally up Arjuna to become a killer. And in order to kill people, you have to be angry. You cannot just, go peace and love on a battlefield and cut people's heads off. You have to feel a certain sense of justice or resentment or irritation. So I think as in the case of Lord Shiva, who is above Lord Brahma, he's not a normal being, he's in his own tattva. I think he's kind of like a coat that he can put on and off and take off at any given time, according to his own desire or his need for service. That's my reading. If you found something to supplement it or deny it, please inform us.
Thanks, Prabhu. So is it a bit like how Lord Shiva became apparently lusty towards Mohini Murti, but the object of his attraction was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and so it wasn't ordinary material lust. And at the end, after the whole episode, he expressed regret, because even when you look at in chapter 7 of this canto, when Lord Vishnu appears and everybody's offering prayers on Mount Kailash, and actually not Mount Kailash, but when the sacrifice is reinstated, Lord Shiva as well, Prabhupada comments that actually Lord Shiva expresses regret that he became angry. So this regret, is it just part of like Leela, as you're describing, that the Lord's exalted devotees will act in ways which they personally, don't like, but they're just under the sway of higher forces, particularly Lord Vishnu, so that a pastime can unfold in a specific way.
Yeah, just like Arjuna was also lamenting, how this weakness come upon me. And Krishna was pointing that out to him, but it was a play. It couldn't unless Krishna put him under the spell. So Lord Shiva could not become lusty unless Krishna put him under the spell. This is one of his inconceivable things that Krishna likes to do. He likes to put his devotees in very extreme situations to show their quality. Because after that incident with Mohini Murti, you can see Lord Shiva is still has incredibly noble behavior. He regrets, he apologizes, even though it was completely beyond his control. If Krishna becomes a woman, what male would not be attracted and lose their head? I mean, even people see these walking corpses in the material world and they become lusty. What to speak of when God himself appears as a woman? People become lusty after anything. There's lust permeating the entire material world. So for Lord Shiva didn't fall under that spell. Krishna had to come and personally dress up and just show up as Mohini Murti. And they were all completely bewildered. I mean, the demigods gave up the nectar of immortality to Mohini Murti. They were actually fighting for thousands of years to get it. And when they got it, she came by and said, "Can I have it?" And they said, "Yeah, of course, my dear. You can have it all." So Krishna can do inconceivable things, and everybody's under his spell. But here, people are under the spell of Maya and the modes of nature. So lust has a completely different twist that basically blocks the intelligence from acting. One is compelled to act against its own will. That was one of Arjuna's questions. How is it possible that people will do things against their good judgment and their will? And Krishna said, lust. There you have it. And Arjuna wasn't having it. He said, "So how do you control it? It's more difficult than control the wind." Well, constant practice and detachment. So there is the diet and the prescription. Constant practice. He didn't say, once a week you can, turn off the lust and see how you do. No, constant means you have to be on alert constantly. And detachment, to understand that you do not belong. This is not you. This is the things that are happening to you, all the circumstances, family, friends, praise, awards, whatever it is. It's not you. It has nothing to do with you. You're just being played. You're in some big play that Maya is moving the pieces on the board, and you should try to get out of this, get out of this routine. So this is, Lord Shiva, and he knows very well who he is and what his duty is. So if he was afflicted by lust, it's because of Krishna wanted him to be, and he had to show himself. And it was an ordinary lust, because if you're attracted to Krishna one way or another, there is a rasa going on there. Like there is Hiranyakashipu, he hated Krishna. He couldn't stop thinking of Krishna. And that's a rasa. It wasn't like he was thinking of someone else. He was thinking of Krishna. Unfavorably, as Ravindra Sarup Prabhu calls it, Putana Bhakti. You're thinking of Krishna, but to kill him. So but Krishna enjoys this, bizarre exchanges as well. He's a supreme enjoyer. He enjoys all sorts of stuff. And he enjoys fighting. He enjoys hatred. He can't transform anything into pure love. So some things take a little longer. I don't know if that answers your question, but
it does. Yeah. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. You could have answered it yourself. I mean, you kind of did.
This is part of the rasa.
That's funny.
I could offer a few comments.
You can, and I even gave you enough time, so you can't complain that your time is being cut short.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for a nice class. It was a challenging text to cover, so you did a good job. With regards to Lord Shiva, I'm not an expert on the character of Lord Shiva or Shiva Tattva, but there are a few statements from Srila Prabhupada that may shed a little light. In the second canto, 7th chapter, Srila Prabhupada comments in a purport, and this was in relation. This was in regards to Lord Shiva becoming angry towards Cupid. Srila Prabhupada said that although Lord Shiva was so powerful, he was unable to get free from the effects of such wrath. So it would appear from this statement that sometimes Lord Shiva is subjected to the influence of anger. I have never seen an instance in which it was associated with lust, however. Lord Shiva, of course, his consort is the material nature personified. Material nature is a source of allurement, lust for all living entities, but Lord Shiva always remains aloof and detached, completely renounced. So lust is not in somehow. In the third canto, in the 14th chapter, there is again discussion of Shiva. Here now is the instance in which Lord Shiva becomes Daksha, and Sati is upset because Lord Shiva has forbidden her to attend the sacrifice, and she really wants to go. So I think probably everyone's familiar with the story. Sati ultimately gives up her life, and Lord Shiva becomes pretty upset. So in a purport there, Srila Prabhupada states that, it says, Lord Shiva has two popular names, Rudra and Ashu. He is very prone to anger, as well as quickly pacified. And he gives examples of how Lord Shiva is, though sometimes moved to anger in an instant, he can turn it off and be pacified by his devotees. And I think it's in that same purport also that Srila Prabhupada describes that the anger, the wrath of Lord Shiva is always also a benediction. And I don't think he elaborates very much on that, but it's interesting to note that most of us, if we become angry, there is no particular benediction associated with. That's not the case with Lord Shiva.
And is for us, it's very difficult to stop anger on a dime as
right.
well.
Yeah. Srila Prabhupada also had that extraordinary quality. He could engage his apparently his emotions. He could utilize them for the purpose of preaching and instructing his disciples, but if he never lost control, he was perfectly controlled. And I witnessed this on numerous occasions. He would sometimes manifest extraordinarily intense anger, frightening anger, terrifying anger. Grown men would be reduced to quivering tears before Srila Prabhupada when he blasted them. It was absolutely terrifying, devastating. And then in an instant, he would turn it off and he would be all sweetness and light as though nothing had happened. It was incredible to see. Always completely under control, but he would manifest different qualities for a specific purpose. Sometimes there was a need to emphasize a point for a disciple who was prone to making some sort of mistake or other, in order to ensure that they would not make the mistake again. Srila Prabhupada would drive the point home very, very forcefully in a way that would never be forgotten. But it was never out of his control.
One of the added attractions to being a true Goswami, as you can see. Nothing is ever away from your control.
There is, where is this now? Also in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, I'm trying to remember the context now, and I can't remember it. 14th chapter. So it's the same chapter. Just see if I can find this quickly. Oh dear, my computer's not cooperating with me. Anyway, we have also in the 14th chapter this now I think is it DT who is trying to appease Lord Shiva, and she offers the following prayer: let me offer my obeisances unto the angry Lord Shiva, simultaneously the very ferocious great demigod and the fulfiller of all material desires. He is all auspicious and forgiving, but his anger can immediately move him to chastise a wrongdoer. So the manifestations of anger in Lord Shiva, as far as I have seen, appear to be instances of him upholding Dharma. Otherwise, chastising wrongdoers, like Srila Prabhupada, for a specific purpose, he manifests his anger. Not just simply that he is offended by someone's transgression towards himself and responds with anger, but for the purpose of correcting wrongdoing, he manifests anger. So that's, I think that's all I have to comment regarding Lord Shiva. And somehow nothing else comes to my mind at the moment. I think I'm tapped out.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for that wonderful addition. So we can end here unless anyone else has something to add or subtract, perhaps.
Yes, I wish we could come up with something more.
Well, it is what it is, Prabhu. Even the attention span has a limit. So it's been a good 52 minutes from the beginning. Thank you, Prabhu's devotees, for attending class. It's to everybody's benefit. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.
Hare